Every 3 months, you have a diabetic appointment. I will go to see the nurse. She will ask me, how do you find your monitoring your diabetes? She'll weigh me and she'll measure my height. So I'm sitting there playing with my hands, twiddling my toes. The nurse is already know. If I'm talking, she's writing, and I've got the feeling she's probably not even hearing half of the things that I'm saying to her.
In the space of the project, a number of concepts were tested. One of those, prototyped in Bolton, was a set of cards designed to overcome the routine nature of most consultations and get to the heart of the problem in the short time available. The cards help people with diabetes communicate more openly about their condition to healthcare professionals. They can be used at home too.
Some of them describe me to a T. I look at this and it says, I could be in denial. Yet if you ask me, I may be tempted to say, no, I'm not in denial. But looking at this card, I think, yes, I am in denial.
Isn't she wonderful? Well, she was one of a lot of users and also nurses and doctors that participated in a project here with Bolton NHS. And there are two things that I really wanted to highlight here. One is that the design space that was created enabled us to bring together a lot of different parties, the third sector, doctors and patients who have very, very little time often, to actually contribute to developing some new solutions. And what they identified themselves was that the heart of the problem was that the key underlying causes around diabetes weren't getting the airtime within the consultation room. And so the cards were developed as an answer to that. So there was one thing here which was about co-design, and that in itself was interesting. But what they then developed, and I'm sorry if I'm giving you the distinction between co-design and co-creation, sounds like a fine point, but actually what they were developing was a co-created service. So a preventative service where the patient itself was going off and doing a lot of the work and taking, of course, the onus off the NHS and the curative side. So really good, inventive ideas, really quite disruptive ideas, and indeed being used very well within Bolton NHS at the moment. And there are two particular, sorry, if I can just go back a slide a moment. I think, again, some of these, can I just go back a slide? There were, again, these sort of three key lessons that I would draw out of it. Again, the strong leadership. We had the Chief Executive of Bolton NHS Trust really driving for some new solutions around preventative care. Secondly, good design, providing a neutral space for us to develop new thinking. And thirdly, this sort of people thing, this power to the people. The users were in there and developing the ideas. And so I want to talk about this other issue, which is open innovation, another sort of way of looking at how we stimulate new thinking and new ideas, and particularly pick on the Design Bugs Out programme, which you've seen exhibited here on the main hall. Open innovation, as you may know, for those of you who read your business books, is a very precise term now. It was coined in Berkeley, and it is very much, put simply, bringing the outside world in. To do some of the innovation for you, but obviously with all of the incentives being there. And that's exactly what we were doing with this project. And I'll just explain. So here was the issue. As the NAO told us, £1 billion a year of cost on healthcare-associated infections, and a premise handed to us by scientists, as well as staff, and indeed as well as the public, which is if you can keep your hospitals clean, if they're easy to clean, then you'll be able to reduce healthcare-acquired infections. So what did we do? The first point was, let's send in some designers to do some of the preliminary research, to go in with ethnographers, to actually look at the behaviours of staff and work with frontline staff on what are the underlying issues. And they brought those back and then tested those with leading experts in the field. And we had, on the one hand, a fantastic expert reference group, and on the other hand, a leadership group led by a top British designer, Richard Seymour. So let's just have a look quickly at some of the solutions that they came up with. So on the one hand, here's the classic patient bed, which has been redesigned, and I think this little film says it all. Easy to clean, where everything is actually replaceable, and in fact the cushions are held onto the chair by magnets, and also it's very carefully ergonomically designed and goes up and down as well, so that it fits all people, everybody, all sizes. Here, the same team, and interestingly, this was a team that had never worked in healthcare before. This was the same designers that worked on the Virgin Atlantic sleep seat, teaming up with experienced manufacturers in healthcare, Curtin Healthcare, redesigning the commode, which, as we discovered working with nurses, was the bane of many a nurse's life. And here what they did was they reduced the number of parts from 40 down to, on average, to about 12. And as you can see, they made it stackable, they made it easy to clean, it took out all of the nooks and crannies. And here, 3 examples from everyday objects that doctors and nurses use. The blood pressure cuff, which is white clean, no Velcro, so again, no fabric or Velcro for bugs to hide in, a cannula with a time tracker, so it doesn't stay in longer than it's meant to because it alerts the nurse. And this little animation is all about the intelligent mattress, which, if it's compromised by a sharp and there's bodily fluid, gets into the mattress, instead of sitting there as a danger to the next patient, it alerts the nurse with hydrochromic ink, and so the mattress can be thrown away and replaced. Now, all of these things are clever ideas in themselves, and we've been hearing about the importance of invention, and there are a lot of really good inventions in here and lots of good applications of good ideas, but the point that I really want to make is this is a great example of open innovation. Because in my book, open innovation is almost like organising a party where you want to create a good conversation. And what you do is you invite people in, you put some rules around it, but you let everybody else create that party. And indeed, everybody should go away from it nourished. And that's exactly what's happened here. Because we've got the incentives right for the private sector, they've come into the space, they've invested in the innovation, and that's meant that the ideas are flowing through the system, and there's a great incentive there for all of those businesses who can now market their ideas not just to the NHS but around the world to actually get their products to the market brilliantly and on time. And I think there's a testament to this project is it started only 9 months ago. So from just the initial thought and the problem through to prototypes in 9 months shows you what can be done. So my sort of final point is really about mainstreaming. And far be it from me to presume that, for the 3rd biggest employer in the world, I've got the ideas on how you mainstream innovation. But I've got 3 things that I really wanted to leave you with. The first is quite clearly, and this expo says it all, but you know it as well, you are a really great innovation organisation. You were founded on innovation, and indeed, over your history, you've consistently delivered great thinking and great innovation. And I only had to open our own magazine to find so many examples over the decades. This, in 1965, the design of the NHS bed, working with the Royal College of Art.